this morning we sort of put the elephant right in the room. I'll make you guys have to deal with the same issue. Is social really over as a business? And first, let me tell you a little bit about these three people. Jeff Dashes, I'm sure, is known to everyone in this room. He founded the Dashes Group. He's now an advisor to Sprinkler, but he probably predicted social business, what, 6 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
You've held important forums around the world about social business. I know you guys have worked together at IBM. We'll come back to the question now that we know who you are. Vanesssa Mauro is the founder of Leader Networks, excuse me, which has worked with leading brands around the world in online community and social business consulting. And last but certainly not least, closest to me is Renee Ducre, who is the
leader of IBM Social Business.
Leader of IBM, global leader of IBM Social Business, yeah. Which is helping big brands, of course, big companies around the world with their social business initiatives and listening and collaboration. Is doing a phenomenal job. All right, so guys, is social over, as some folks believe? Jeff?
Far from it, I think. We're really at the beginning of the kind of power and value that's going to be derived from the connection and engagement that the technology that we now are seeing as prevalent is going to drive. That value is going to be extracted via data and insights, and businesses that capture that value are going to see themselves leaping ahead of the marketplace. And so social as a thing, as a cliche, yeah, I'm hoping social as a cliche is over like today. But social as a representation of connections and engagement and the kind of power and value that a network is going to provide a business in the future for all of its constituents is really just at the beginning. And it's really, I think, the most exciting time I've seen in my career to be involved and active in any business that's undertaking a social initiative.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. In many ways, as the song goes, we've only just begun. For the past, 8-10 years, we've struggled with learning the tools and technologies. What is this? What does this mean? How do I do this? And now the days come where we're able to use our imaginations and think about applying those social skills to the work that we do. Becoming responsive organizations, listening, and really connecting that information that's driven through the tools to our core business processes and lives at large. So it's just beginning.
And not to pile on, I agree as well.
You're going to violently disagree.
Exactly, I'm going to violently agree and say that, just a couple things. One, I think it's definitely here to stay. It's totally not over. It's evolving. Like many things social, it's always going to evolve, right? And one of my favorite sayings is whether we like it or not, we're all social businesses, right? And your clients are online, your employees are online. And whether you like it or not, they're going to be talking about your business in some form or fashion. And we all need to get on board and embrace it. So I think it's just going to continue to, as you've already stated, kind of evolve and grow.
So we've used the ROI word a little bit. Brian alluded to that this morning. Is that discussion over, though? I mean, if social is here to stay, how many CEOs tomorrow are going to be asking their CMOs or their COOs, where's the ROI in this social stuff?
So I'll take a crack at that. Go ahead. As I talk to IBM clients, if social's going to be here to stay, ROI is a key piece of it, and being able to speak to a CEO around that, because I think a lot of times one of the fallacies of social business is that it's social media, right? And the first thing you hear is, oh, I can't, I don't want to spend any money on, social media, there's no return on it. And we have some very robust client examples at IBM with Lowe's and Boston Children's Hospital and other key accounts where we've you can't really, like Boston Children's Hospital, we've been able to literally save lives based on the solution that we've rolled out.
And what's the ROI of that, right?
What's the ROI of that? Lowe's was we put together a collaboration hub for them, and they were able to basically avert themselves from going into a class action lawsuit based on the feedback from the social listening from this collaboration hub that we put together for them. So, those are very tangible, benefits. And I think in order for CEOs in the C-suite to take notice and really sit up and take notice of social business, we're going to have to continue to evangelize those kinds of results so that they see the business value to social business.
Well, we're here to help.
Yeah.
But Vanesssa, I mean, your experience, is the ROI thing still coming up?
And it should. It should keep coming up again and again and again. It's very important. These are strategic initiatives. And the opportunity here with ROI is to look at it in terms of business return. You know, we've spent a lot of time calculating ROI in terms of cost reduction. But when you think about the numerator-denominator thing, I mean, this is just basic business principles. You can only cut costs so much before you reach diminishing returns. But innovation knows no bounds. And in so many ways, that's the opportunity with social. How fast did you accelerate, you know, a new product development because you had access to information and a peer group to bounce ideas off of? You know, how many crises were averted? How many new IP ideas were patentable because of that collaboration economy? That's where the ROI opportunity is, in the business terms and looking at innovation and opportunity as opposed to only cost reduction.
So, in your career, you've encountered this question before, Jeff, and what's the answer?
You know, I think the industry that you're talking about and the question that's even getting raised is the result of sort of the victim of short-sightedness. You know, you don't generate ROI from a strategic initiative in 4 quarters or 2 quarters or 1 quarter. And if you're going to be thinking about things in terms of quarterly returns, one, that's not where the value is going to be derived from when entire marketplaces are transforming, because sensors are connecting people in ways that we've never seen before, because connections and sharing is driving a different type of communication, because options for people and influence for them are being, you know, transformed. That's not a quarter-by-quarter issue. And more than that, social has been sort of bucketed into this digital marketing realm where performance marketing attributes are being, you know, sort of compared to what social can do. And social may not convert as well as your email campaign into your e-commerce platform, and that just may be the case, but that doesn't mean social's bad, or that doesn't mean connection and engagement is a bad thing for brands or for organizations to connect with their constituents in meaningful ways. And the maximization of those connections is really what we're going to see downstream, and businesses haven't figured out how to do it yet. That doesn't mean it's wrong.
You seem like you want to say something extra to that, Renee.
No, I totally agree.
Okay. Well, so let's get a little more granular. And one of the things that I think is threatening social business when it comes to using social media is the enormous changes that are taking place in the leading social platforms. And Vanesssa, I know that you consult with companies on online community, but I think a lot of people in this room probably have LinkedIn groups, they have Facebook pages, and they're starting to see that the decisions that are being made by Facebook, LinkedIn, and I'm sure there'll be more to come from Twitter, have had an impact on their ability to derive ROI from social media as opposed to social business. So what does this mean? Should companies now be thinking more about owning their social conversations outside their walls? Or is renting still going to be the preferred way to go?
I'll take that. It really depends on your business and the business needs. You know, the metaphor I like to use is, do you want to go to a rock concert or do you want to play golf with some of your clients? That's the public-private gated large question. And how important is having those customer data and the ability to impact it to your organization? Those are some of the sort of formative questions that help answer the rent versus own, but it's whatever's a good fit for your organization. Now, with some of the changes, and we were talking about this earlier, with Facebook, a lot of causes and not-for-profits kind of don't have that decision anymore to make on the public networks because they're losing their visibility and they really often don't have money to invest in, broadcast channels. So there's a big push for them to move towards owning because they've lost control. Whether this trend is going to continue to other organizations as well, we don't know. But it becomes a decision for the organization, whatever is the right fit for you.
Yeah. I would say, okay.
Sorry, go ahead, Renee.
No, I would just say, I'll give you the big brand answer.
Yeah.
So,
speaking for a big brand.
Exactly. So, for IBM, I would have to say that, my vote would be to own. And as I think of, when you think of owning versus renting, I think, to your point, it varies based on your brand and kind of what your goals are. But from an IBM standpoint, when I think of the history and the legacy that we have from a brand that's so strong, one of the things that you always have to, especially in the world of real-time marketing, and I heard a new term, which I'll share with everyone last week at a conference, forget real time, it's old, it's passé, now it's right time marketing, right? So
okay, you heard it here.
You heard it here first, right? Or second, because I heard it last week, but I thought I'd share that with everybody.
Okay.
But the thing is, in this culture where, everybody's trying to, be on and, do things, you really have to think about your brand, and, it just takes a split second, right? And I think from an IBM standpoint, and I was on a panel, last year and earlier this year with people from Campbell's and other big brands that have like this long legacy. It just takes a second to like drop the value of your stock by doing something crazy, right? And so the thing that you have to really think about is, do I want to rent that out to somebody as a big brand? Honestly, not. Like, from an IBM standpoint, there may be some capabilities that I'll work with a partner on, and so I'll, quote, rent that out, but I will own the entire experience because the IBM brand, we've done so much to build that over 100+ years. Right. I don't want to do anything overnight that's going to tarnish that.
I think it's really all of the above. I want to go golfing with my buddies and go to the rock concert. And I think that really requires a mix of call it paid, earned, and owned, or the highly cultivated owned content that you can then tap into earned activity across a variety of different platforms and networks where those people are. So you're engaging with them where they are, when they're there, with the things that are most interested to them, and and then you're using paid to either amplify those authentic earned conversations or to attract new earned activity that could happen outside of that. But I think what we're talking about a little bit here is the difference between media and business. Right. Media is buying ads somewhere, and whether you're buying them on Facebook or whether you're buying them on Pinterest or whether you're buying them on Twitter, you're buying ads. And you're interrupting people doing the thing that they were already doing without you. That's media, and that's what the big social platforms sort of have become, these media platforms. What we need to be talking about is really about engagement, and where that engagement happens for recruiting, where that engagement happens for PR, where it happens for crisis management, where it happens for employee retention, where it happens for marketing, where it happens for sales, where it happens for customer support. Yeah. Those critical business functions require engagement and meaningful experiences that the company has with those individuals, and cultivating that, managing that, and driving those meaningful experiences is what this is about. I don't know if it's about renting versus owning. It's really about
it's really about customer experience.
Exactly.
So what role does social play in customer experience?
I think social is a key driver of customer experience, but it's not social media. I'm not buying ads to influence customer experience. I'm using a communication tool to engage with my customers to create a single and consistent customer experience for them, whether they're touching me at the customer service desk, whether they're touching me at the gate when I'm at the airline, whether they're touching me when I'm making my reservation, or wherever they're touching me. There's a consistent customer experience that references an authentic, trusted, and transparent dialogue with individuals, and that's really...
Which implies listening, which is...
It implies all of that, and we can't be breaking things down into those sort of simple community versus listening versus, none of that matters anymore. So all of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned an important point around engagement. So, as we think of, social and the evolution of it, what's the next turn of the crank, what direction's moving in, and to me, it's really all about engagement. And when you think of, if you listen to Ginny Rometty, any of our IBM strategy, it's really focused on 3 pillars right now. It's cloud, it's big data and analytics, and a new term that we're coining, which is engagement. And engagement is the combination, the convergence of mobile, social, underpinned by security technology. So, you know, that's what you hear us talking about, and it's really, to me, it's the next turn of the crank as it relates to social. It's really about what you talked about, engagement, and then, you know, we, within social business, we're driving a 24/7 newsroom to try to really focus on engagement and doing, whether you want to call it real time or right time marketing, but, you know, kind of doing little experiments to see how things work. And, you know, here again, trying to engage our influencer community to do more, you know, user-generated content. So instead of, you know, IBM talking about how great we are, really getting our clients and our key influencers and press and analysts, you know, to talk about, you know, experiencing our products and things that we're doing. So,
Vanesssa.
Yeah, no, I think we're onto something here. Yeah. It's really about connecting the online and offline experiences. They're so rich for us, but they're still in a fragmented experience. Our trajectory is not always closely aligned. Who I am at the counter is not always who I am when I buy airline tickets. In fact, I rely on that because you get different prices if you come on under different, you know, so it works. But, you know, this question is very intriguing. You know, what role does the social play in the customer experience? And my colleague Don Bulmer, you saw his big head up there a few seconds ago. Not his big head, but he's large because of the size. We just, next week we're releasing a study. We wanted to know the answer to this question. Who is the social consumer? What do they want, and what do brands need to do to engage with them? And really, like, listen, participate, find out what they want. And we learned some really profound demographic outcomes of this. So it's called the social consumer, cleverly named, because it's about the social consumer. And we'll be sharing that probably next Wednesday, but next week for sure.
Highlights now, you want to give us a tease?
Well, demographics, certainly. There were shocking demographics. It wasn't what we anticipated. We learned also that there's a big trend in terms of using the social channel to defend. This whole idea of advocacy becomes very, very important in the roles of individuals when that brand loyalty takes root. And loyalty is naturally very, very difficult to earn, but when you have it, it's hard to shake as well. So,
well, advocacy was a big, you know, discussion yesterday at the Employee Advocacy Summit, which Chris and Susan did such a fabulous job creating for the audience. So skipping ahead now to tomorrow, we're going to have Jeremiah talk about the collaborative economy. We're going to have some incredible examples of startups that are using collaborative to build businesses. What role does social play in the collaborative economy? Could the collaborative economy have existed, besides the fact that Jeremiah is driving thought leadership for the collaborative economy, and he drove it for social media 5-6 years ago. What does the one have to do with the other? Jeff?
I think they're one and the same. Let's not confuse things. Social is really people connecting with each other. Collaborative economy is people connecting with each other. Mm-hmm. I'm going to connect my solar panel to your solar panel, and 1,000 of us are going to have solar energy for our Teslas, and we're going to stop buying gasoline. It's options and influence powered by connections. Yeah. And whether I'm going to Uber or whatever the new marketplaces, new business ideas, new services that are created by people connecting with each other. When my orange juice box in my refrigerator knows that it's empty and just calls the grocery store and has it, you know, shipped with my order, that new service is going to be created by the collaborative economy because it's going to be powered by lots of people who need orange juice at the same time. Yeah. But the point being, like, that's social. And that's what social becomes. Social becomes an economic driver where people are connecting and engaging with each other, that the network is what's powering these new kinds of services, and that's social. That's the future of social business. It's not about social media marketing or advertising on Facebook. It becomes about powering new ways of maximizing the value of the network that we all have today and the ones that we're going to have as technology continues to pervade every single facet of our lives.
Hallelujah.
I know. Ditto what he said.
That was so fantastic. I know. I would hate to suggest that one of you follow Jeff, but what's the role? I mean, you guys, obviously, IBM's powering some of these collaborative startups because their data needs are huge, huge. I mean, you know, Watson is trailing along behind them. So What's the relationship? Is this the same? Is that what your customers, when you go out with IBM Social, is that what resonates for them?
Yeah, it's a key enabler, right? And exactly, I echo the comments that he made, and I think when you look at it, now we're kind of going to the future of social. But, it's exciting, right? Like all the new business models that it enables, all of the, when you talked a little bit kind of indirectly about the Internet of Things and like how it's all coming together. I look at it as it's personalization. It's coming up with, enabling the collaboration so that we as marketers can all better understand our clients and each other and create these, hugely, hopefully personalized offerings that delight the customer to buy and drive, revenue, right? So, like when I look at a lot of the things that IBM's doing, especially like with Watson, it's going to be customized. We're rolling Watson out to all industries.
Wow.
And so when you think of, what can it do for travel services and what can it do for banking and financial services, the future is amazing.
So it's not just going to be about chocolate barbecue sandwiches?
Nope.
Did anyone have at South by last spring when Watson came up with the
Chef
chocolate
Watson,
barbecue? It was Chef Watson, exactly. It was so totally cool.
Yeah.
Collaborative economy seems to me to be one and the same with the community-based approach, right? I mean, is that, I don't know how, and Jeremiah can tell us tomorrow about how Airbnb got started, but it must have started with the nutshell of some kind of community, correct? I mean, do you think that they're the one and the same?
I do very much. And, I sit from the lens of an anthropologist, right? That's where my background and where I come from.
Code, yes.
And, community is the root of people-powered ideas. I mean, from the very beginnings of community, well before the advent of the web, from ARPANET, where physicists were sharing information, to the well, it was about changing the power structure, coming together, decision-making, influence, having an opinion and having a voice. On the internet, no one knows you're a dog, the famous New York Times comic strip, right? And this is the collaborative economy coming to bear in the Internet of Things. Your example is brilliant, of course. But this is the changing of the power structure. We've waited, organizations have spent the past, 50, 100 years waiting for the customer to come to them. From John Deere's The Furlough magazine, the very first B2B attempt to make customer-centric communication, straight through to blogs. Well, they're here, they're coming, and they won't shut up. It's fantastic. But the burden of responsibility in the future, who's going to win and who's going to lose, is really incumbent on who really can listen, who can turn that megaphone around and stop shouting and really listen. Not with your analytics tools, although they're important, not with your intern who's 12 and doesn't have any business skills. She's important, but listen with the hearts, minds, and business. What do they need? What do they want? Meet and exceed their expectations. I think that's the future, and that's the collaborative economy.
So let's get granular for people's careers, because one of the things that I really hope you all leave Social Shakeup with is not only the energy for creating a more social universe and a planet that we and our children will want to live in the future generations to come. I also want you to get some really solid ideas about how to expand your possibilities within your own businesses. So with that in mind, what kind of advice would you give our audience, the social change agents, whether they're in customer service or marketing or recruiting or communications? I'll make you go first on that.
Okay, so we have a definite focus within IBM on being a social enterprise. We've enabled all 400,000 employees to be social. And when I think about, we've published our social computing guidelines, and we actually, I found out from
years ago.
And actually, they're on the internet, free for everybody to see.
Yeah, and they're only about a page long. It's wonderful.
And we crowdsourced them. I just found out, a little while ago from our CIO that, and when you think about publishing guidelines that, are going to give some guidance and structure to employees on how to conduct themselves online. The best way to get them accepted is if you crowdsourced it. So we always do jams in IBM. We kind of did a jam. Got input and feedback into the social computing guidelines so that when we publish them, they would hopefully be more readily acceptable, right, to employees. So, we've had them out there for years. They're online for those of you that want to, if you Google, IBM social computing guidelines, they'll come up. But, we try to make it very accessible, for anyone to be social. Mm-hmm. And personally, I think that from a career path standpoint, if you're not social now, I tell everyone that I meet to, get social and start, get online, go to LinkedIn, have a Twitter account, try to blog and write, really, have a point of view or an opinion about some topic that you're passionate about. Because I think in order to really grow that following, whatever it is, like last night we were talking with someone about street art, right? I mean, like, blog on whatever your passion is, because, like, I think it's going to come through and people will follow you because of that. And so, we have a lot of lovable nerds at IBM that love IT. And so we're really encouraging everyone at IBM to go online and be a leader for whatever you're passionate. If you're in HR, you should be passionate about all things HR. If you're, in finance, be passionate about all things in finance and be an industry leader. And, through an IBM lens, you can be recognized as an industry leader in whatever it is that you do. And I personally believe that from, whatever your career path, you will be more marketable and competitive if you're social.
Let me ask this question a different way of you, Vanesssa. And Jeff, chime in. Can you be a social business leader and not blog or tweet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I want to see a show of hands on this one. Yes or no? Social business leaders don't need to blog or tweet. Yes.
I don't agree.
Social business leaders do need to blog or tweet. Wow. Okay. So now you have to explain your answer, Jeff.
Let's see. I don't blog, but I do tweet. But I will be blogging shortly. So half a dozen one, six of the other. Social business to me conveys a whole bunch of things, both people, process, and technology. So having an understanding of the technology and how it gets deployed within an organization, understanding the business processes that need to be implemented to utilize the connections, communication, and engagement that the tools deliver, and understanding the cultural impact of how people actually work, the way they live their lives, the way they want to be with each other, can happen, and you can be a leader in your organization, and you can implement social business change, and you can drive social connection and engagement throughout your organization by focusing on people, process, and technology, and enable that to happen in your organization without blogging and tweeting.
So you don't have to blog or tweet, but you've got to understand those technologies.
Oh, absolutely. There's no question about that.
And how to optimize.
No question. And I've seen, and I'll just say this, I have seen the most prolific and profound social personas, let's say, fail miserably at implementing social programs in their organizations or even coming up with social strategies. The best sort of tweeter or blogger, the personalities that you all know and love in the marketplace today may not be the best social strategists or the best social business leaders in their organization. It's the people who sometimes get underneath the covers, focus on business processes. Hey, we've got to improve this by driving better connection and engagement with these people. We need this set of tools. We need to implement this set of tools. And we have to alter the culture of the organization to ensure that the people that are using those tools use them and do so in a loving and sort of authentic and trusted way. Those people, those leaders, those change agents may not be the prolific public persona bloggers or tweeters or posters that we all sort of know and love in the marketplace today. And I wouldn't equate the two.
Vanesssa, you've seen a lot of community managers go forward into interesting realms, right? Mm-hmm. So you've seen a particular social skill set that you and I know and love, which is community management. How many community managers do we have here? Hello. You are my heroes. Yeah, it's a tough gig. Where do you think, what would be your career advice to community managers?
Keep doing what you're doing. Don't burn out. No, it's the little note there. The burnout in community management is profound, and if you don't have it, get business skills. And this goes to social media managers too. But at the end of the day, it's about applying collaborative economy. It's about applying insights and information to business context, helping solve business puzzles. And as community leaders, as moderators, facilitators, visionaries, change agents, doers, you represent the voice of the customer and you represent the thought leadership of the organization, and you need to bring those together in the work that you do to be successful. And that requires both social skills, facilitation, and an understanding of the business drivers. And when those three go together, that's three legs to the stool and magic happens. But take care of yourself, invest in your business acumen, and hang in there on being the voice of the customer. It's a hard gig.
Great advice. So guys, all right. So this morning we sort of put the elephant right in the room. I'll make you guys have to deal with the same issue. Is social really over as a business? And first let me tell you a little bit about these three people. Jeff Dashis, I'm sure, is known to everyone in this room. He founded the Dashis Group. He's now an advisor to Sprinkler, but he probably predicted social business, 6 years ago?
Something like that, yeah.
You've held important forums around the world about social business. I know you guys have worked together at IBM. We'll come back to the question now that we know who you are. Vanesssa Mauro is the founder of Leader Networks, excuse me, which has worked with leading brands around the world in online community and social business consulting. And last but certainly not least, closest to me is Renee Ducre, who is the
leader of IBM Social Business.
Leader of IBM Social, global leader of IBM Social Business, which is helping big brands, of course, big companies around the world with their social business initiatives and listening and collaboration. Is doing a phenomenal job. All right, so guys, is social over, as some folks believe? Jeff?
Far from it, I think. We're really at the beginning of the kind of power and value that's going to be derived from the connection and engagement that the technology that we now are seeing as prevalent is going to drive. That value is going to be extracted via data and insights, and businesses that capture that value are going to see themselves leaping ahead of the marketplace. And so social as a thing, as a cliche, I'm hoping social as a cliche is over, like today. But social as a representation of connections and engagement and the kind of power and value that a network is going to provide a business in the future for all of its constituents is really just at the beginning. And it's really, I think, the most exciting time I've seen in my career to be involved and active in any business that's undertaking a social initiative.
Right. No, I couldn't agree more. In many ways, as the song goes, we've only just begun. For the past, 8-10 years, we've struggled with learning the tools and technologies. What is this? What does this mean? How do I do this? And now the day has come where we're able to use our imaginations and think about applying those social skills to the work that we do. Becoming responsive organizations, listening, and really connecting that information that's driven through the tools to our core business processes and lives at large. So it's just beginning.
And not to pile on. I agree as well.
You're going to violently disagree.
Exactly. I'm going to violently agree and say that, just a couple things. One, I think it's definitely here to stay. It's totally not over. It's evolving. Like many things social, it's always going to evolve, right? And one of my favorite sayings is whether we like it or not, we're all social businesses, right? And your clients are online, your employees are online. And whether you like it or not, they're going to be talking about your business in some form or fashion, and we all need to get on board and embrace it. So I think it's just going to continue to, as you've already stated, kind of evolve and grow.
So we've used the ROI word a little bit. Brian alluded to that this morning. Is that discussion over, though? I mean, if social is here to stay, how many CEOs tomorrow are going to be asking their CMOs or their COOs, where's the ROI in this social stuff?
So I'll take a crack at that. Go ahead. As I talk to IBM clients, if social's going to be here to stay, ROI is a key piece of it, and being able to speak to a CEO around that, because I think a lot of times one of the fallacies of social business is that it's social media, right? And the first thing you hear is, oh, I can't, I don't want to spend any money on,
We do want to have some questions, and I think do we have a little bit of time for questions? Not yet, Simon. Put your hand down. I want to just do a quick lightning round. Future of social, okay. A year from now, will we still be calling it social business, or will that social part melt away? Yes or no, Jeff?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we will be calling it social.
Why?
Because it's the convenient word for connections and engagement, and the thing that everybody knows as sharing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not going away. This isn't going away. All this, it's great. It's great for bloggers and for people who are in the public to basically.
It's shorthand, right? Well, it's shorthand for a lot of good stuff. Right?
And it's a really, it's link bait. To say social's dead or social's over, right? Anyone in this room who creates a post tonight or tomorrow and that basically declares that social's dead or social's over, or great, you're going to get a lot of traction. You're going to get and link bait away. But the fact is that this isn't going away. This is the most profound trend in the marketplace that I've seen in my entire career. People connecting and engaging with each other in ways we haven't seen, powered by technology, is going to drive all of the value in the economy in the future. Period. Stop. And that's the place that we're in right now, and that's the future of social.
Yeah. Vanesssa, a year from now, do you want link bait?
Yeah, no, we'll still call it social. 5 years from now, maybe not so, but social is we're still learning.
Okay. Renee?
That's a tough one.
I'm sure as a global leader of social business at IBM.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? It's a tough one. I'd say I'll be provocative and say maybe. Like, I think we definitely are seeing more and more on engagement. You hear IBM strategy at the corporate level. We're talking cloud, big data and analytics, and not social outright, but we're talking engagement, and we're talking about mobile and social coming together, underpinned by security. So I think you'll hear more about all the conferences I'm going to. There's always a track on engagement. There's always a major focus around engagement. So I think we're going to start hearing more about that. Social's a huge piece of that. And so I think, more to come. I'll be provocative and I'll say maybe.
I'd like to just chime in. There have to be some truths here. You can't have the strategy du jour or the buzzword du jour or a trend du jour that people just sort of hop onto, and then a few years later things change. Like, either this is a powerful trend and you all are here for a reason because it's truth, because there's something meaningfully happening here that we all are aware of, that we're all participating in, that we all see value in. And I don't care what you call it, but let's just call it social for a second. Either that's true or it's not. And if it's not true, then let's go home. But if it is true, then let's stop worrying about what we're calling it, and let's start focusing on the value that it drives and get out there and do it. And this is true. Social is a truth. The power of the network, the power of this sort of connection and engagement that we're all driving, whether it's on Pinterest or Twitter or Instagram or Snapchat or next year's thing or the following year's thing or the 10 years out thing, that power is here to stay, and it is absolutely going to drive all the value in the economy that we see going forward. And let's call that what it is, a truth.
And the definition of social is changing too. If we were here a few years ago, social would have been about the tools.
Yeah.
In the past...
The platforms, right?
Yeah, the platforms, exactly. That's what we meant by social. Last year, even the year before, it was about social media marketing. That's what we meant by social. Right. And moving forward, social is about insights and collaboration, listening and responding. So the word remains, but how we understand it is changing pretty significantly, pretty quickly.
Yeah. We do have time for a couple of questions. In the back of the room there, I think.
Hi.
Hi.
Simon Pierce, founder of Fabric Branding. Thanks, guys, for a great discussion so far. I want to pull us back to one of the early questions about rent versus buy, because I actually think there's an interesting tension in the marketplace that Robin alluded to that I would like the panelists to comment on directly. If you think about what seems to be happening in the marketplace, there's there's a sense, I think, from some in the business community that they're working really hard with all their content marketing teams to earn their earned media. And people are just starting to get really good at this. And now there's a sense of a possibility, at least, that I'm going to work really hard to earn that media, and then there's going to be a toll collector there. He's going to charge me, like $5 the first time, and then the second time $10. So I've worked really hard to earn this media, and now I have to pay for it, and I'm back into the world of paid media a bit. And so I think it adds an interesting dimension to the rent versus buy question of, to a certain extent, we're renting the network, and it seems like the network, because it turns out there aren't that many social networks of scale out there, that the potential for sort of heavy toll collecting on those networks that may pull us all the way back to a paid model is on the horizon, right? And so I guess a couple of questions. One is it indeed on the horizon, or are we imagining it? And what is the response of the business community? Is it to go and build their own networks or sponsor open social? Remember Diaspora before it got acqui-hired out of existence, pretty much. So there's probably a couple of questions in there, but I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. No, I think so. I mean, I think the question is the predominance of the major networks, let's call them that, because it is kind of like ABC, CBS, NBC all over again. The big social sites. Increasingly, they are, for a variety of reasons, monetizing, and I would like to suggest creating new friction points where none existed before. And I remember in 2006, 2007, Albert Wenger from Union Square talking about how the internet doesn't like friction points. I mean, is Simon saying that marketers are locked in now to these massive networks, or can they go outside? I mean, what's going to, Jeff?
I'm a bit puzzled by the question, but let me see if I can get this right. Why are you worried about your earned media as if it was a CPM-based situation where you're equating the cost per thousand in views that you would get earning it versus the cost per thousand in views that you would get buying it? And let me throw that out there and say, much like our blogger for social media today that was up here earlier, you got 40,000 views that he earned, on LinkedIn. And wow, yay, 40,000 views, but only X% of them, small 0.16% of them converted into anything that was meaningful for him. Whereas on social media today, 400 views translated into 26% conversion rates. And so that, the earned content, the earned value of the content created on social media today, which was, albeit let's just call it a smaller network than the one that LinkedIn is, was far more valuable because of the engagement and the quality of the engagement and the quality of those engaging. And so I'd like to just say, I think what you're saying is Facebook is throttling me, is what I'm hearing. I'm developed this own strategy on Facebook, and now they're throttling me, making me pay for the traffic or the earned impressions that I used to get. And I just don't think it's about that. There are over 400 social networks with over 1 million users on them worldwide, and that's growing dramatically. And there's going to be another 400 in less than 5 years.
And what about peer-to-peer? I mean, is peer-to-peer Facebook's nemesis that we just have, Snapchat? I mean, is that...
I think an asynchronous network is really what this becomes, and the value of that asynchronous network, whether you're posting on social media today and then tweeting it out and then posting it on Pinterest, and then all of that activity is something that organizations need to start getting good at. And if you fall back on the sort of CPM-based, our stuff is media and we want to get people to see it, I think you're thinking about
it. Jeff.
Yeah, but that's lazy. That is some lazy. That is lazy. Yeah. Let's not get lazy with engagement. If you want to think about your stuff as media, then just go buy media. It's really easy.
Yeah. Right.
If you want to try to meaningfully engage with your constituent base, then working on your own content strategy, figuring out how to get earned content out of that and then amplifying that, or through paid or through other aspects, is a much more complex and nuanced thing that we all are still, I think, really learning how to do, but one that I think in the end yields the kind of results that you're working so hard to get to.
Yeah, well, I mean, Airbnb got to be, and Uber got to be big companies without spending a dime, I'm sure, on paid media.
Yeah.
So.
And pick
Vanesssa.
your channels well. I mean, another study Don Bulmer and I did, the new symbiosis of professional networks, the average communities or networks that organizations or individuals belong to is one large one and two niche private networks. That's invisible to the public eye, but you might be a risk, enterprise risk manager. Well, you're not going to find 20,000 ERM experts in oil and gas out there, but the 500 or 1,000 you find, or even 20, those are meaningful exchanges. That's where the emphasis is. It's role-based, it's industry-based, it's niche. And so there's an important counterpart between one large, sort of coverage-based, and then a portfolio of select discrete, because you can't participate everywhere. It's that number game. You cannot participate and engage on all those channels all those times with authenticity. So choosing your channels well and making those connections meaningful is more valuable.
Renee?
And I was just going to say, I mean, to Simon's question, and you kind of answered some of it, like yourself, like basically, as I think about, there's all, these really large social, channels that we all deal with, right? And that model that you propose could actually happen, right? But then the great thing about social is that it enables new business models so that when we don't like the direction it's moving in, guess what? Something else, people will innovate. Something else will emerge. It'll be at a better price point, so we won't have to deal with that anymore. And then, we'll just go to the new thing. So, I love the future and the potential and the possibility of it. Like, okay, let that happen, and then it'll evolve.
Great question. I think, do we have time for one more?
Come on.
Yeah. Rick. Sure, a follow-up question. If you want to just yell, I'll repeat it.
Okay, I think it's interesting. Jeff, your point was very interesting, but why does it have to be either or? Why can't, for instance, in the world of content creation, if you can get on LinkedIn and do paid PPC or social ads, and it's going to give you more bang for your buck, hey, why not?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
I think every brand.
Wait, let me just repeat Rick's question. So if you can get on LinkedIn, you can get that exposure for free. Am I right about that?
No,
you're going to pay for it?
A good paid strategy today is going to use content marketing and paid.
Totally. Okay, so it's not an either. Rick Dragon Search. Yeah.
No, you don't.
So I won't put words in your mouth, Rick.
Yes.
What's the question for the guys in the back of the room?
To Simon's point, Simon was saying, hey, gee, we're content creators, and now we're going to have to go out and pay Facebook or LinkedIn or other places to show it. I mean, these are the mega social networks, so we do want to be there. And, Jeff was saying, nah, it's this other way, and you can do this, and you can do that. And I was questioning, I was really saying, gee, it's really got to be a holistic approach using all of those things.
I agree, absolutely. And if you look at what we're doing with IBM, I mentioned, testing. We're testing content. So we test all those different, channels and say, okay, what was the response, to this kind of asset on LinkedIn versus Twitter versus, and kind of doing a really good job of tracking not only, who amplifies, who's our best, set of key amplifying people either within IBM or externally, and then also looking at the asset and then what the channel does for us. So we look at, all those different variables as we're making investments in the channels that we use, the kind of content that we create, and then the influencers that we, also choose to associate ourselves with.
Okay, one more question between now and your first cocktail at our reception. So, who's going to hold us all up?
Come on, good question, good question.
It better be good. Anybody?
All right.
Looks like I got the mic.
Randy,
Mo?
the man of the hour.
My question for you is, thanks. Is B2B or B2C, which one has the biggest opportunity right now?
For social...
For social storytelling?
Business, social media, marketing, which would you...
Social storytelling.
For social storytelling. Wow. You're a B2B company, Renee. Why don't you ask that question? Answer that question.
I'm a B2B, and I've done B2C before.
Yeah, that's right.
In my first life before IBM, and then also within IBM, I came in consumer desktop. So that's a tough one. Like I think they both equally have huge opportunity. I don't know if I'd pick which one, because I think, depending upon what industry you're in, I'd make the case, because I'm B2B now, that there's huge opportunity. But then also, I look at the things that Procter & Gamble and other companies are, doing on that in the social realm, and I think there's equally large opportunity. I don't know if I'd pick.
Jeff?
There isn't a B2C or B2B. It's just B.
I like that.
It's just business, and your customer is your customer, and you have to connect and engage with your customer regardless of whether it's a business-to-business transaction or a business-to-consumer transaction. And while the dynamics of those relationships may be different, and the dynamics of the customer support and sales and marketing and PR and crisis management and all the facets of the front of the house may look different process-wise, it's your customer or your consumer of your product, and it's just B.
Yeah. I was going to say P2P. It's not even B. Maybe it's person to person who works at the B. So it's B2P2P.
You guys are going to hear more about that tomorrow morning. Brian Kramer, who's written this wonderful book, Human to Human, is going to be talking. And I think you'll get a good sense of the answer to Randy's question. Listen, panel, you've been amazing. I feel personally confirmed in our business model for at least the next 12 months. And I hope that you'll continue to come back, and let's see where we are 12 months from now on these important issues of the future of social. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. See you tomorrow morning.